Welcome to another session of the Networking Studio, Experts Connect. It's so good to see everyone. We have an amazing guest today that I know everybody's been secretly waiting to see. What do we not know that we need to know, and how is Erin going to save us and be the bridge that connects us to this world we don't want to be a part of sometimes? Everyone's welcome to unmute themselves. I'm gonna read a little bio from Erin and then she'll also introduce herself. But Erin Servais teaches editors to upskill with artificial intelligence. As the founder of AI for Editors, she's been featured in Jane Friedman's The Hot Sheet newsletter and Mignon Fogarty's Grammar Girl podcast, which I'm so jealous. I need to know. I want to have another meeting just to talk about those two things. And on AI Sidequest newsletter. She served on the board of the directors for ACES, the Society for Editing. She's taught copy editing for the University of California, San Diego. And I know we have some UC San Diego graduates here. And she's presented about editing, entrepreneurship, and artificial intelligence for the EFA, for Editors Canada, the Northwest Editors Guild, the Book Industry Study Group, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill School of Journalism and Media, not medium. Erin is the founder and the owner of AI for Editors. And AI for Editors was the first comprehensive AI training focused on editors. Since then, the AI for Editors courses have been taught to editorial professionals from over 20 countries and trusted by editors from Apple, from Penguin Random House, from Gartner, the Congressional Budget Office, and many others. She has a corporate training program that launched in 2024, which offers customized professional development solutions to editorial teams. Dragonfly Editorial and the European Patent Office are recent clients. AI for Editors equips people with the knowledge and skills to incorporate AI tools into their work ethically and effectively so they can maximize their potential in a rapidly changing profession. And I asked Erin, what is one fun thing that people would never know about you? And she said that she has a flock of plastic pink flamingos in her backyard. So, welcome, Erin.
Hi, Linda. I did not realize how long my bio was when you read it out loud. That was pretty cruel of me to send you such a long
No, but
bio.
now we have the full picture now. We have the full picture. And so, thank you so much, first of all, for making time. You have a really packed and busy schedule, so making time for us today, we're all really, really grateful. Um, I asked Erin to put her information in the chat so it's there. And I'm happy to see that Joy's here today too. I want to welcome Joy because Joy has been helping me volunteer at the EFA with the Welcome program many times, and she helps me co-host the meetings there. And Erin, is there anything that I haven't said that you'd like to say today as you join our meeting?
I have two new pink plastic flamingos, actually.
What is
And
how?
these are ginormous. I did not know that
Oh my,
they came this in this size. It's like they're when you put the leg on, it's like 5 feet tall. So I have a pair of them and it's
wow. The flock
beautiful.
leaders. The flock leaders. How many, how big is your flock right now?
Oh gosh, I don't know. About a dozen, I would say.
Nice. It's a healthy flock then.
Yes, they are thriving. Even though it's gray outside right now, they are thriving.
Wonderful. So, welcome. For everyone else that's joining us, if you'd like to put your name in the chat and what type of editing you do, because we'll save the chat later as well, and I'll share that with Erin. Um, the reason I invited Erin is that I've also taken her AI for Editors class and the intro level. And I've seen Erin speak at different conferences. And one of the things that I really admire about Erin is that she's very bold in making moves that a lot of us other editors are afraid to do and feel unprepared or wouldn't even dare in the atmosphere of the editorial world for fear of being judged. And I know the weight of judgment in the editorial world now that we've had the books and the network, like it's heavy. So it takes a lot of courage to step out and separate yourself from the pack and do other things that are a little bit more unconventional. So That's the main reason I wanted to invite you to our meeting. And above all, because one of the things that you did really well in your class, and Joy can probably recognize this as well, was to make us feel comfortable with AI and to make us realize that it's up to us if we want to use it or not, and that it doesn't have to be a must have or I must do this, as it feels sometimes. So there's three questions that we're going to talk about today specifically that we've prepared. And one of the things that everybody here is a freelance editor and owns their own business. And a lot of us are navigating, we might be in our first years or in our third and fourth year, and we're still figuring things out. And the publishing industry has changed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years as well. So sometimes it feels like just when you have things figured out and you know what you're doing, you have to pivot and start doing something else. And one of the stories that really, I think, epitomizes kind of what you were saying about how you pivoted, or how what you told me so far, is I heard this story once of this guy that worked in corporate America, and I think you guys have heard me say it before, where he said that he worked so hard to get to be the next one underneath the CEO, and he was doing everything great. He was escalating, he was working his way forward, and then all of a sudden he reached the top of the mountain and he looked around and he realized that he had climbed the wrong mountain and that he needed to pivot and start over and do something else. And so I don't feel that you've climbed the wrong mountain. You just chose to like get down from the mountain you were on and do something a little bit different and climb the mountain next door that seemed more appealing. So would you tell us a little bit about when you started off as an editor and you had a certain type of service that you were offering, but then you decided to expand your editorial service offerings, and what fears did you have before doing that, and what was that experience like for you?
I didn't so much expand my editorial service offerings as I did uh, just completely shut that down. And for me, there was more of a fear of not making a change than in making a change at that point. This was uh, spring, summer 2023, and I'd been running a small editorial agency at that time and had for where I had contractors. I'd been running it that way for a few years at that point, and it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I kept working harder and more hours and trying with all my might to make it work. But I made a fundamental flaw in my business plan, which was that I tied everything to self-publishing authors. And maybe maybe that works for some agencies. It wasn't working for me and the type of agency and the size of agency that I wanted to run.
Mm-hmm.
The self-publishing authors, almost all of them, this was their hobby. They had other work that they were doing for their livelihoods. And I learned that running a business on people's wants, their hobbies, their passions is a lot harder to do than uh, running a business that's based on people's needs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I shifted from the wants to the needs that summer of 2023, even though I didn't quite frame it that way as I was doing it. I see that looking back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was not sustainable. I knew I needed to make a change, but I just didn't know what that change was. I was looking at a lot of different avenues. I was gasp even thinking about going 9 to 5 again at a corporate job just because I needed to do something.
Yeah.
It wasn't sustainable. And then I had my big aha moment when I tried using ChatGPT to copy edit a piece of text in spring of 2023. And immediately, just that first time I tried it, it was so fast and so good that I knew people were going to have to learn about this technology at some point, whether they
Mhm.
wanted to or not. They were going to have to learn about it. I might as well be the one to teach them. I'd been following generative AI technology, which is the type of AI that tools like ChatGPT fall into. I've been following this for years, years and years, and since its infancy, really, just because I'd found it interesting
Mhm.
and that un unintentionally set me up to be able to see that this would be where the future would be heading, and I should take advantage of that moment. So that very first day that I tried my very first editing experiment with ChatGPT, I decided I was going to wind down my agency and throw my entire self into starting some iteration, the first iteration of a training about how to use this in editing. And I recognize the importance of being the first to do that. And it's all worked out well. Uh, yeah,
So
the rest
some
is history, and also the future at the
and the
same time.
future. Um, so sometimes I don't know what your process is like. So when I'm deciding to maybe I'm going to do, I kind of stumble upon things that interest me and I want to do more of, and within editing. And so now I'm working a lot on marketing and understanding psychology and the psychology of marketing and stuff like that. And I agree with you that the self-publishing industry is is there's a mix of the hobby industry and those that are very driven. And sometimes those that are very driven aren't really interested in quality. So there's a very big mix of people out there. And then there's, of course, the clients that don't feel they should be paying, or that there's a lot of misconceptions. But when I choose to do something new or I'm going to explore, I kind of, my deep dives go into like reading everything there. And I'm a paperback book, audiobook person. So I'm studying from different sources, but I know that other people, other editors that are entrepreneurs as well, they'll have like a business coach that might guide them, or a mentor. Did you have anybody that mentored you into, or what was your process like once you decided this is what I want to do? This is where I'm going to get my knowledge from, and this is how I'm going to. And I know that was not a question that I told you I was going to ask you, but I figured that might be an easy thing to answer, maybe.
I have used a business coach at different times in my career and found that incredibly valuable. I worked with Laura Poole.
Mm,
You may be familiar with that name. If
yes.
you're not, I suggest that you look up Laura Poole after this. She's wonderful and very smart and gives really great advice. And often, if I say something that sounds very wise, it's something that I learned from Laura, and I'm happy to attribute these things. So I had worked with Laura previously, and I think I did have a couple of sessions with her when I was making this shift just to, I knew she wasn't necessarily up on all the technology, but at that time at least, but just I wanted to talk it through with somebody I trusted and who knew about the business side of things too, not just the specific editing business
Yeah.
side of things or editing business things. So I talked to her about that and just to get validation that I wasn't completely throwing everything away because there were some fears about that. Am I putting my reputation at risk? Which I was, frankly, because it was the climate was very much more anti-AI in
Mhm.
2023. Yes, I have been called evil. I wear it as a little badge of honor. Uh, So I talked to her about that, but I did my own studying to learn about the technology. I took a a course that was offered through Vanderbilt about um, the that specific type of technology, generative AI and large language models. And I learned some basics from that and did a lot of reading and experimentation.
Mhm.
There's wasn't really a lot out there about how to specifically use it for editing. There was maybe this much about how to use it for writing, but basically nothing about editing. So it was a lot of just figuring it out on my own,
Yeah.
which I like to do anyway. But yes, listening to a lot of podcasts about AI, reading a lot of newsletters and just news in general about AI so I could keep up with all of the updates. And I still have to do that because it's changing all the time still.
Yeah. But one of the things that I hope everybody else realizes too, and that all of us are perfectly capable of, is the advantage of being an editor and having worked on editing projects is that you have all this knowledge. So whatever it is, whether it's AI or it's something else that you choose to embrace that you want to know more of or bring into your service offering, you already understand the editor mindset, and the tools that we have to use and what our workflows are like. So it seems and AI is definitely something I would have not chosen to take on myself. But I think what you're saying is really that is what we do with any kind of new service offering we want to do. We really study, we prepare ourselves, we listen to all the resources, we distill all that information, and we take what we think is going to work for us and our clients. And that's what we use, and that's what we choose to move forward with. And like Erin said, it's just a continuous education. Because even with editing, even with the things that change and rules that change, and CMOS now 18, and so it's not like everything else in the editing world is passive or stagnant. It's that's always changing as well, but this area is changing a little bit more rapidly than, and some of us know. Um, was there anything within AI you ran that first test and you were blown away? And I've seen this test because you've done it in the class where you copy edit something and it takes, I don't know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds,
Oh,
like
that was back in the olden days. Now it's much faster.
very, very fast. And you're able to see there's settings that you can do that so you're able to see what it's editing and how it's editing or why. But you're able, but how did you know that AI was promising? Besides you did that test and you were like, wow, the potential of this. But was there anything else that you realized that this could be an opportunity, or how it would be an opportunity, or why it would be an opportunity for editors?
Well, I tried to think of a poignant answer for this, but it was uh, in a lot of ways it was just happy accident is not the right term. That's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it came about because I had happened to be interested in this technology and had already been paying attention to it, so that whenever I did see I'd already been working with tools that were pre-Chat GPT
Yeah.
for fun, uh, and that allowed me to then see when there was this new leap in capability that it was time. This meant that things were really going to shift in hugely fundamental and profound ways in our profession and in every part of our lives, basically. So it was just having that experience that allowed me to be able to see that. But you could broaden that to say experience in general helps you see opportunities. I can make much better decisions now that I have 2 decades more uh, of life experience that
Yeah.
I've been through than at the beginning of my career when I certainly wouldn't make some of the decisions now that I did then. So you can extrapolate that for other situations as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely. Um, so I can't imagine that the road to convincing editors they need to learn about AI has been a smooth one. But what is it that editors are getting wrong, or what do you think editors are getting wrong about using AI? And then my follow-up question to that is going to be, um, how how should we be positioning ourselves as editors with AI? In this, meaning if we were to know about AI like that, now I feel I took the course. I get to put my little badge on my, on my website now that I took the course. And so I have like that legitimacy. But besides that, I feel I'm a little bit ahead of the curve now because I know how to use it. But in your experience and what you're seeing out there, some of the clients that you were mentioning are really big clients. The European Patent Office, that's ginormous. I can't even imagine what it's like to teach this whole group of people. So, what are you seeing as opportunities, and what are we getting wrong, and what are the opportunities out there that we might not be seeing that could help us as editors stay ahead of the curve or stay on the curve and be ready
Yeah.
to position ourselves better in the market?
Uh, to your first point about it was
What are we
the
getting
road
wrong?
of convincing
Oh yeah,
editors.
yeah.
I it wasn't actually that hard of a or bumpy of a road to convince them because I knew that the world was just going to convince them and their workplaces were going to convince them because uh, it was just going to be a reality of working and in knowledge work at large and in editing that people were going to have to learn how to use this. And I thought that the first couple years of my AI for editors training business that was going to be the people who are excited and gung-ho to learn about new technology. And then I would start to see the people who were finding that they just had to learn about it, even if they didn't want to. But I was wrong. It was it less than 6 months, certainly, before I started to see the people coming to the course saying that they didn't want to be there, but they realized that they needed to. So that my time frame was way off on that, as I've found it's been sped up in so many other regards too, with just people adopting this technology and organizations adopting it, and also mindset shifts toward it. People are much more accepting of it than they were when I started in summer of 2023. Maybe not accepting it with a full smile, but accepting it as a reality. But talking about misconceptions, one of the misconceptions is that it's all or nothing. Like you can either be entirely anti-AI, you can't use it at all, or it's like if you have to be 100%. It has to do everything for you. There's no middle ground. When actually there it is, you can find out for yourself what uses you feel comfortable using. If you do not want to have the conversation with clients about inputting their work into AI models, there are so many other things you can do with it. Um, like even meeting agendas. Well, gee, shall I admit that I got my notes for our discussion today from ChatGPT? I guess I might as well. But I used it rather uh, in a rather intelligent way, I think, because I took the questions, I wrote a couple of my own notes for each one. I have my ChatGPT connected to my Google Drive, where I have lots of things for my courses, plural now, in living in my Google Drive, and there's other things that I've written and said about AI and editing living in there. And it was just able to say, oh, here you go. Maybe you should talk about these points. And there are things that I probably wouldn't have thought to bring up on my own. So you can even use it for conversations like this without inputting client text. You can have it write titles for blog posts. I mean, so many things you can do without it ever touching a word of client text. And that's, so I'm encouraging you to feel for yourselves the shape of what you're comfortable with AI use. And
Yeah.
if that's not using it for editing, that doesn't mean that you can't use it. If you do want to try it for editing, that doesn't mean that you have to go 100% in. Maybe it's a sentence here and there that you get some help untangling, like those paragraph long, overly complex sentences where you just about stare a hole through the computer screen trying to figure out even where to start with unwinding that.
Yeah.
You can use it every once in a while to get help with that or to do really what I would find unpleasant, like formatting reference lists. I know some people like that. I am not one of those people. That would be something I would be perfectly happy handing off to AI. And I know a lot of other people would as well. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I advocate for the AI editing 80/20 rule, which is a new concept I'm kind of fleshing out, but I think you should approach it as the tasks that AI can do well, which is not every single task that we do, but things that involve mechanical uh, editing tasks, uh, formatting citations, like I mentioned, those kinds of things. Think of it doing 80% of that. And then you come in with your very vital and necessary human 20% to polish it, to check the AI output to make sure it's all correct, and to bring your humanity into it, which is an integral piece of this as well, and will remain so. I'm not going to ever say, let's just let AI do all of it, have it write everything and edit everything. That's just foolish. And I know that there are companies out there that are doing that, and it's foolish. A
Yeah.
human needs to be involved at every step of the process in order for to make sure that what your whatever is being published is accurate and of a certain quality. And I think eventually, if we don't keep doing that, we're going to end up in a Terminator situation. And I know we don't want that.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
We need humans involved. So one of the misconceptions is that you can't do it at all, or you have to be 100%. It does everything. Not the case. Another misconception is that if you use AI, it's a betrayal of the craft of editing, or perhaps even a betrayal of humanity itself. I know that there's a lot of guilt that's tied up in this and this feeling like, oh, well, we're cheating if we are using AI to help us in our work. And I don't think that that's the case. The way I see it is that you can use AI thoughtfully, and doing so does not make you less of an editor. It makes you a more strategic editor. I am comfortable saying if you use it well, it will make you a better editor than you are right now because of its capabilities. But that's when you're working with it, collaborating with it, as a team, not having it do everything by itself. And a, a last misconception is that it just doesn't do a good job. That's not the case. I
Yeah.
knew right away that it was better at copy editing than I am. With my 20 years of experience, it was more accurate and a heck of a lot faster. There's no way that in 2023 I could copy edit a page of text in 5 seconds. Now it's faster and do that with 100% accuracy.
Yeah.
Uh, it, but you do need to know how to use it well. And that's where we see this issue of editors saying it will never be able to edit as well as we can. Well, if you peel back the layers a little bit, as I used to do, but I don't really bother with that now, because some people just don't want to have their minds changed.
Mhm.
I'm just going to leave that there. Uh, but I did discover that often when people said that, it was due to them not using good prompts. You have to know how to prompt the AI tools you work with well in order for them to work well. So these editors were saying essentially, edit this, period. And then whenever it didn't do exactly what they wanted it to do, they would hold it up like it was I don't know, some sort of flag that they were proud of. That's not a good analogy. What am I trying to say here? It was proof to them that they were right and everyone else was
Yeah.
wrong, including AI. Um, but yeah, they just
I
weren't being specific enough in their prompts, and that's the big thing. You have to
and
tell it what to do.
sometimes when after when I was taking your class, Erin, and I'm the mom of a 13-year-old, and if any of you have dealt with young children, when you give them a prompt to set the table, sometimes you need to be very specific. Like, we're going to be eating here. These are how many people are coming to dinner. We need to, we're having soup tonight. We're not having pasta. And so I think you just learn. I pay a lot more attention now to my other activities when I'm communicating with people. I'm so much more specific in my prompting to other people, or like I'm in the middle of a remodel with the house we just bought, and so I talk to the contractor, and I'm like making sure that I what I'm saying, and it's exactly this way, and I'm doing all the details, and it's the same way I think with AI. You're just much more careful. I think it's an amazing
Mhm.
tool, um, and I'll explain later how I use it, but like you said, prompting is key, but that's going to be like a skill set that you have in any kind of life experience. And when you're working with clients, when you're creating your contract, you're being as detailed as possible. When you're
Exactly.
writing your editorial letter, you're being as detailed and as clear as possible. And it's the same thing of your relationship with AI. You have to be as clear and as detailed as possible if you're expecting it to understand what you're asking it to do. So I think after seeing this, for me, what's really struck me and annoyed me in a way, and annoyed me in the sense that, man, I am wasting my time doing some of these things on my own when I could just have the AI do it for me. Is the speed. I think just the amount of time I could reduce. When I craft an email for my newsletter, it takes me a whole day. It just takes me a whole day because I'm a writer and I'm crafting and is the message clear? And now I'm like, okay, I need the newsletter to say X, Y, Z. This is, it's intended for this kind of writer. It has to be chirpy. It has to be funny. Don't use any offensive. And I can just spit out something that then I can manipulate like Play-Doh and work it to make it sound like me. But I can get a lot of things done faster for sure by using it as a tool and as an efficiency tool, I think above all. But um, that's kind of how I use it. You're seeing it being used also, and I think one of the biggest assets is this. it can also research things. You were teaching us, and we didn't get that deep in the intro class. But can you tell us a little bit about the research capabilities? Because a lot of people think like, oh, it's just pulling from anywhere. But there's this whole other side of AI and of solid research that it can do. And some of the editors here work with museums, work with a lot of history and historical societies. Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of research it's capable of?
Sure. And I want to speak briefly about your example of having it draft your newsletter. That's another 80/20 situation
Yeah.
where you could have it spit out a rough draft, but then, um, sorry, have a hair on my lip. That's always lovely to look at. Excuse me. But you still had to go in with your 20% of your
Yes.
humanity and make it you, because even if you train it to write like you, which you can do,
Mhm.
you're still going to want to put your own
Yeah.
spin on it
Definitely.
too and infuse you into it. Uh, yeah. So it's still not going to be 100%. There you go. Just put in this prompt, this magic. Everyone thinks there's this magic prompt that will do everything. No,
Yeah.
you
No.
still have to be involved. For research, there it's quite incredible the tools that are available. You're talking about specifically people working for like historical societies. If we have anyone who works on journals, academic journals of different types, there are tools out there that are specifically tailored for this type of research. One that for especially any kind of scientific research and fact checking, my favorite is called SciSpace. That's SciSpace. And that's an AI search engine that only pulls uh, research papers and studies and the types of sources that you're going to want to work with. It's not pulling random people's blog posts or anything. And it gives you lots of different ways to work with the information that you find. You can compare different papers and their findings really easily um, in the SciSpace interface without having to go in and read the entire paper. I mean, you're always, my recommendation to people is always go to the original source to do the official researching and fact checking. Don't just take any AI output as if that were going to be 100% true, because it's sometimes not. You still want to have those sharpened researching and fact checking muscles, sharpened muscles, no, sharpened tools, buff researching muscles. Uh, so that's my recommendation if you do that type of work. If it's more general purpose, well, now search is being built into all of the foundation AI models like ChatGPT, now Claude, Copilot, anything that you probably have access to through work or that you've heard of probably now has a search capability. And with that, you have to approach it. I mean, it's better than Google, but you still have to approach it with discernment and your skeptic's hat, and you look at the sources and see whether they're trustworthy and use those, the ones that you deem trustworthy, to do your actual researching and fact checking, not the AI output. I'll say that, it's worth saying again. For uh, deep analytical work, like, oh, geez, I didn't have a use case off the top of my head. Well, since we're all business people here, I use this for my business in competitor analysis. That's one good use for it. So let's just use that. Uh, you can use in ChatGPT, it's a feature that's called deep research. It's called similar things in other tools that now have this capability, but you can get very detailed, like full on 10, 12 page reports about whatever it is that you're researching from these tools that are clearly cited and extremely thorough. So if you're doing let's say that you are an editor who specializes in editing Westerns. It's going to pull the most popular, successful other editors and businesses who have that niche and tell you how what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and how you can set yourself apart. And it can do that for anything that you want,
So
anything that you want to go deep on and learn a lot about. It's a really, really, really useful
one
tool.
one of the things that I did this week is tomorrow I'm hosting a panel for the Publishing Professionals Network in Berkeley. And the panel is about freelancers and finding opportunities in this changing industry right now. And so one of the things that I wanted to know was freelancer statistics as related to publishing. So I put in a bunch of questions and I wanted to get some research on show me some legit statistics on things that, freelancers in the publishing world struggle with and what are the areas of growth or opportunities. And it spit out all these, things. They weren't all there weren't journal publications, but there was other stuff from Forbes, from universities, reputable papers that have been published. And then it gave me this whole analysis of like, okay, here are the top 5 things they need to be working on. And it was just so much easier because tomorrow I printed it out, I can read out some stats. And so it just made it's going to make me seem so much more prepared, but at the same time it gave me real information that I can base what we're talking about on, and it gives me really good prompts for introducing everybody and what we're going to be, other questions that we have. So I think it's a really great way to support your work and to make it easier. What before would have taken me a few hours to research, I
Mhm.
can do it in a little time. And this is not something, it's a panel I'm moderating, so it's not something that I'm writing a paper on. So I don't need to spend that much time researching things. I just need something that's going to help me prompt and share valuable information with the audience. So I think when you try to evaluate how am I spending my time and how much time should I be spending on a project or an event or on something, it's a really good tool to have, that can set you apart and help you prepare.
Yes, deep research can take an afternoon or days of your time researching something and get it done in 15 minutes or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Amazing.
really worth just trying once to see what it can do.
For sure. So we're at the 45-minute mark, and I want to open it up for questions. And
Oh,
because we're,
can I
yes,
make one more
yeah,
point? That this was, I'll be quick. This is something that Linda and I were talking about right before we started. And that's this idea of feeling like you're not in control whenever you use AI for your
Mhm.
work. And I wanted to talk to you about that because it's an understandable fear and it can be a bit mysterious how because it's such a new and just mind-boggling technology. It's so incredibly powerful that it could easily feel like you are not in control of this process. But the way that I teach people to use these tools in my AI for Editors courses, which I did put in the chat a discount code for 20% off. Quick little plug. Um, I teach people how to stay in control every step of the way and how to see what it's doing, what changes it's making, so that it's not some secretive, mysterious thing that's happening, so that you are the one who remains in control. And it, as I've said how many times now, definitely think and know that humans need to be involved at every step of AI use. That's just a best practice. And if somebody is, or a company, anyone is not doing that, then they are not following best practices. So I teach people how to remain in control. If that's one of the reasons why maybe you've not tried this yet, you're worried about losing control over the editing process, know that you very much will be the one who's making the calls.
Thank you for addressing that. Yeah, and that came about because I look back and I of all the editors that I meet and the conversations that we have, and I was telling Erin that there's the haters, like absolutely no, I shall never touch AI and get involved in my work, which I totally get. And then there's the ones that are like, hey, yeah, let's embrace everything, let's do it. And then I was trying to figure out, I was very resistant. I'm still very resistant. I've been for a very long time. But again, I was kind of like Erin. I'm like, okay, either I learn about it and choose to use it, or I don't learn about it and then get stuck in the back of the bus, trying to see what everybody else is doing. And then by the time I decide to join and, be part of the conversation, it's going to be not too late, but I'm going to be behind. And so better that I know about it, than not. And I was recognizing that my fear or my hesitation was about control, was about if I let this thing on my computer, it's going to start doing things for me that I don't want it to do, or I'm going to have to accept everything it tells me to do. And I don't want that. And so I was thinking that I think a lot of editors feel that involving AI in any part of their processes for editing is going to mean that they have to relinquish control of what they're doing. And it's clearly not that. So it was more of a mindset, for me. But I know we have a lot of questions. Jody, would you like to share?
Sure. Hi, Erin. I have my
Jody.
learning hat on.
I like your hat. I
Thank,
noticed it as soon as you joined.
thank you. Um, I'm just curious what your thought is. You mentioned the Terminator situation a little while ago, and what you were just saying a minute ago about controlling AI. Do you think that um, do you think AI can ever actually really get smarter than us?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I think it already is smarter than us.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
and that's a little frightening, a little. That's a lot frightening. Mm.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So,
I don't know where you want me to go with that. I mean,
uh,
I'm not, people often have this misconception about me, and I can see why they would come to that misconception, but people often have this misconception that I am all in 100% pro AI in every single way, and I am not. I
okay.
recognize that there are a lot of drawbacks and scary possible futures because of this technology. And I'm mindful of that. I also am just being aware of it. And
Yeah.
that's the most I, as an individual, can do at this point. And that's
Yeah.
why I advocate that people just be polite to their chatbots.
Okay.
Some people think that's silly, but
But
I don't.
we're preparing. We're preparing. Julia?
This is really interesting, and I've seen you present at least one other time, and I always learn something, but I haven't quite taken proactive steps to like delve into AI tools. So I think this is just another sign that that's very needed. But I had two questions. One was much more practical and concrete, and it totally left my brain, but whatever, so be it. The other
Happens.
one is more abstract and kind of existential. So I don't, expect you to necessarily have an answer, but I am more curious your thoughts or opinions on the I've seen a fair bit and heard about the environmental impacts of AI and server farms that, power these tools and models, which is a big concern for me. And I guess I'm just curious if, I don't know, just how we can reckon with that. I know there's dozens and dozens of other environmental um, stressors that, we're also engaged with every day, whether it's driving or eating meat, like obviously the list goes on. But I guess I'm just curious if some of the headlines I've seen um, are they sensationalized? Like, how concerned as someone who cares about the environment should I be like using AI for editing with
Mm-hmm.
yeah, with some of these things I've seen.
This is one of the reasons why I am not 100% pro AI, because it has very clear implications. But one of the something that frustrates me is that I can't answer your question about how much of an effect and how much of an environmental impact this technology has. And that's because all of the AI companies are not releasing data about it. So you have probably seen this statistic that a, a, a I don't even know exactly, a chat GPT search or a chat GPT chat takes, what is it, like a liter of water or something. They say they count it out as a certain amount of water per chat or something. And that's guesswork and speculation. And that's because they have no data to work with.
Yeah.
Uh, it's it seems quite clear that there is an environmental impact, but I can't tell you what that is. And I hate that. It's so frustrating to me because it is something that's important that we should talk about. Uh, but we can acknowledge that there is an environmental impact, uh, and that we can adjust our behavior based on that without knowing specifics. So that example earlier of deep research, that one of those deep research searches takes more energy to do than if you were to do a simple um, Google search, which even a Google search, thanks to their AI overviews, takes electricity and like that's just a silly it's a silly thing. We don't need AI overviews
Yeah.
in our Google searches. I wish we could just turn that off because I don't want it because I know that it's taking up electricity. Uh, but doing a deep research is more energy intensive than doing a search otherwise. And that's why if I want to know Christopher Walken's birthday, I'm even with the AI overview, I'm still going to go to Google and Google that, then do this uh, big electricity sucking this deep research investigation into Christopher Walken and everything about him, including his birthday, if all I want to know is his birthday. So you can think about it that way, and think of smaller ways that you can incorporate it, and rather than just turning your entire life over to it. And that can be a way that we can feel better about it. At the same time, AI is doing pretty amazing things, like with cancer detection and increasing the accuracy of mammograms, and or helping doctors be able to spot cancers in mammograms and other types of scans uh, much better than they were before. It's leading to um, medications that are currently on the market. It's able to find new uses for them because it's able to analyze the chemical structures so much faster and more in depth than humans can. So there's all of these breakthroughs already, and so many more that we are just about to reach. That
Yeah.
it's this really complex uh, uh, it's this really complex idea, and it's why, yeah, you can't just be all entirely anti or all entirely pro. There's just a lot of gray area in this, no matter what aspect of it you talk about.
True, true. Wow, we got deep there, everybody. That was, yeah, I'm gonna food for thought the rest of the day. I'm gonna start monitoring my searches. Any other questions? Catherine, Joyce, Melissa?
I have two questions. One, Erin, can you put your information back in the chat? I didn't get that message.
Yes, that is an easy one. I can definitely
Thank
do
you.
that.
And I know we talk about this a lot about where I'm going to address the financial thing here because I think that's always the elephant in the room, that where do we spend our money as editors, because there's so many things we should be learning. And so I always, it's the same thing that I talk about EFA with your EFA membership. I speak of EFA because that's where I volunteer at, but like EFA, I think, has the most expensive membership for editorial associations, but the amount of content that you get through EFA and the networking that you get to do with all the different chapter meetings and having your profile there, it takes being found once in the EFA directory to pay for your membership for 5, 6, 7, 8 9 years. Sometimes there are classes that we take, and it takes taking that one class to open yourself up to so many other opportunities and to reduce your editing time by a third. And this happened to me very specifically, and I bring this up, Erin, with I took a class through the Chartered Institute of Editing and Proofreading, and it was Hester Higdon's class, and it's called Efficient Editing. That class, I think it was 4 lessons, reduced my editing time by a third by the way it had me organize my editorial work differently. And so that class paid for itself. It was the first project I did. So think about where you're going. I know that we don't all have the budget to spend to go to all the conference we want to go to take all the classes we want to, but think about where you're going to spend your budget, and think about if this is going to be one of those tools that can make you a much more efficient editor, and where it might be able to help you. And one of the challenges, and we can talk about this later in the week in the discussion board, the networking studio, that I invite you to try is think about popping in your editorial, if you do it copy editing or if you produce editorial letters, pop that into ChatGPT and ask it if it can reduce it to, by a page, or, where it can improve the tone or the content, or ask it to do something specific with your editorial letter to see what it spits out and compare it to your letter so that you can see maybe where there might be some value there and that way you're not compromising, your client's content. Erin, can you talk briefly about that? And I know we're almost out of time, but we are out of time. But about the fear that if I put my client's work on ChatGPT, what's going to happen to it? Is it going to feed the, large language model in that? Because that's the other kind of elephant in the room. And I should have addressed that sooner, but.
It's okay. And it's good to talk about it whenever we're able to, because it is one of the biggest fears. You're right. I'm surprised I didn't have that on my list. Um, there are settings in all or almost all of the AI tools that you would work with that will allow data privacy, so that any inputs, including any client text that you work with, are not going to train the new versions of their models. And you can, and some of them set it up so it doesn't store any of that information. So you'll need to do a little research depending on which tool you like to use most, but there either is a setting you can adjust so that you can turn on that protection, or it has come already pre-built with that protection. So just need to do a little research about what it is for that particular tool that you like.
Yeah, I really wanted to demystify that whole thing that if I put any text in there, it's going to take it away and it's going to feed. No, it's not like that. There are settings that you can set up so that your work is protected. I mostly use it for my personal stuff, my blog posts, and so I haven't put any client stuff on there yet. But I use it for any kind of communications that I'm doing, and so far I'm really happy with it. So it's been great. Erin, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing what your experience pivoting businesses has been like, and really delving into this whole AI world, and kind of like opening the doors for us so that we're not the first ones to have to go through it. We can see what it's like on the other side now that you've gone through it, and learn from you. So we really appreciate your time, and thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And then next week, and you're welcome to leave us, Erin, whenever. I'm just going to give everybody an update on what we have happening next week as well. But
Well, I might like to hear.
I believe next week we have an office hours session in the morning, and Alan and I are going to be talking about what kind of customer CRM tools we use to manage our contacts and our accounting and things like that. I think that I can't remember which one he uses, but he wanted to kind of show you how he uses his tool. And if I could look it up quickly, I can tell you. And I'm going to share about how I use Dubsado, which is my CRM to do my accounting and manage my contacts. So
You might use Moxie.
is
Does
it
that sound
Moxie? Okay,
familiar?
that sounds, yeah, I think that's what he uses. So I think Alan is going to talk a little bit about Moxie, and I'll talk a little bit about Dubsado, and we'll kind of share maybe what everybody else is using. And if you're using Excel and you have some magic formula for getting me to like it, let me know. I'm really happy to learn something new, but that's what we'll be talking about. And then we also have Hillary Cadman joining us in a few weeks as well. I think, when is Hillary coming? Does everybody, let me see. Oh, Hillary's May 8th. Hillary will be May 8th. And then we have, we're also doing, Erin, we have a book study group, and we're studying Alan Dibb's one-page marketing plan. And so we meet every other week to talk about how each of us is applying that that book. And it's been, I don't know for everybody else, but for me, it's been really helpful so far. So I will see everyone next week then. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a great rest of the week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.